Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We're gonna get started in about a minute or two in hopes that we get a few friends joining us before we get started with the night.
Nice to see all of you.
Yes. It's very rare you come into one of our meetings without music. If anybody wants to sing for us,
Oh,
this is camp.
I
there
won't
was a
sing, but
great
I'll say
big
hello to
moose.
everybody. Good evening.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Carrie wants to sing.
Oh.
She's always got a little tune in her heart.
It's a little late now. Come on.
It's just the right time.
Well, should we get started?
Yes, I think that's fine.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. We're so glad that you're here. Tonight's webinar is presented by the Odayin Inclusion Team. And at Odayin, we have a deep commitment to provide an inclusive space for our community. We're always learning, we're always growing. This is our third educational event. Our first webinar was presented by Gender Spectrum. Our second focused on mental health in the heart community. And tonight we're learning all about Native culture. Odayin is the Ojibwe word for heart. And 23 years ago, I consulted with a few tribal leaders and organizations to get the blessing to use the name. According to the American Camp Association, in the last 10 years, we've seen a growth in awareness of how camps are cultural appropriating Native American Indigenous communities. Resident camps in the early years provided elites the opportunity to send their boys to learn how to be men, and in the process incorporated Native American or Indigenous peoples' culture to strengthen and empower these boys. As time progressed, military themes and practices were being introduced into camps to create young soldiers, and the narrative of appropriation started to gain traction to become the norm at camp. We hope and believe that the use of Native American themes began in the early days of organized camp were out of good motives. However, we must acknowledge that cultural appropriation, no matter how it began, has caused generational trauma to Native Americans. Together, we can learn, support, advocate, and do better together. Tonight, we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month and learn together from our speaker, Allison Waukau. Brooke, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce Allison.
Thank you. I'm going to go spotlight her real quick before I speak. Takes me a moment to find her. There we go. Allison Waukau currently resides in Minneapolis and has a strong background in community engagement. She currently serves as the Tribal Liaison and Native Relations Coordinator at the Metropolitan Council. Previously, Allison worked at Hennepin County Library as the American Indian Community Liaison, a role she has also held at Roseville School District. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Humanities from Fort Lewis College. Allison is the past president of the American Indian Library Association and was recognized as one of the Library Journal's 2021 Movers and Shakers. She also received the Rising Leader Award at the Joint Conference of Librarians of Color. Allison co-hosts the podcast Books Are Good Medicine, which aims to increase knowledge for educators and libraries about Native American books and materials. Her professional interests include exploring land acknowledgement practices, developing community-led initiatives, and amplifying the voices and perspectives of her Native community. Welcome, Allison. If everyone would check what view they have, you are able to choose side-by-side speaker. You'll be able to see the presentation along with Allison, our presenter. I'll hand it over to you, Allison.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's always so hard to hear someone talk about you. Thank you for the warm welcome. I appreciate being here tonight. And again, Allison Waukau. I'm a Menominee in Navajo. My clans are Tatanasani and Awasa, and I always acknowledge my parents when I speak, Mary Alice Sosi and Lawrence Waukau. And so tonight I'm honored to be here and be invited to this. And I was just telling the folks um, how exciting it was to put this PowerPoint and the slides and the presentations together for you all. It's a variety of different topics, and I'm not going to have the chat up, but feel free to jump in too with questions, put them in the chat. We'll be doing those at the end. And I timed myself earlier and I was close to an hour, but sometimes I run short, sometimes I run long. I guess it just depends. But if we could do the next slide. Oh shoot, am I freezing? Am I okay?
You are
hear me?
not freezing. Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got frozen on my side for a second there. Sorry. So books are good medicine. A little bit about myself here. I was driving down 94 coming home from Wisconsin. My reservation is there near Green Bay. And I had this idea of doing a book podcast, the Native book podcast. And initially it was for me and my two sisters I wanted to do it with. And they're busy with their own lives, and maybe there'll be a guest on this podcast sooner or later. But what I really wanted to do was conversate with aunties. So a lot of natives, we call our mom's friends aunties, and our loved friends, family, aunties, regardless if they are an auntie or not, right? So I wanted to have this auntie podcast with really wonderful women voices. And it turned out, I told my friend Odia, who's pictured here, and it ended up happening. Shakopee ended up sponsoring us for 2 years, and it's just been a total dream come true to be able to interview folks. And my mom is a librarian and retired, but I don't think that you ever being a librarian. So she and been working in books for a good part of my career and in libraries. And so this was just the natural step. And Odia and I, if you'd like to check it out, I would really appreciate it. It's just, we interview Native authors here in Minnesota, different people that are involved in the community, really centering around books and resources, educational resources. So this is in support of Shakopee's Understand Native Minnesota campaign. So if you haven't seen that or heard of that, please check it out. And if you could do the next slide. So this is more to keep me on task. This contact page is to go over what we'll be covering, and it'll be y'all's land acknowledgement, cultural appropriation, stereotypes, lived experiences, the language, Ojibwe language, foods, Native teachings, support Native people and culture, and then we also have environmental values and how to be an ally. This is just I'll probably be intertwining books here and there, since it's my heart, but I'm just really excited to go over all these things with you tonight. And so next slide is, I think it was Allison, right?
Thank you. The other Allison. Allison with one L.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allison. Books are my heart too. So I appreciate that. So Odayin's land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that our partner camps and program locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin and office in Minnesota are on the stolen lands of Indigenous people. With honor, we acknowledge our use of this land and the Ojibwe language, and we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. May our hearts and actions be full of respect and gratitude for this land, its original people, and its history. And our action steps at Odayin: actively recruit Native campers and volunteers, research nonprofits in our area that support and honor Indigenous people and explore ways to partner and support Native businesses whenever possible, continuous education about Native culture and Ojibwe people at all our programs, and reflect Indigenous values in all that we do.
So I think at this point, I'm just gonna have, I think it's Chris, share the video just as an intro to this slide.
They don't look like Indians to me.
Our children today aren't able to be dismissive of this, mainstream story and imagery where we're not represented. And I think it has a deep psychological impact.
I think it has to be really challenged and disrupted, and that we have to really begin to realize Native characterization, in a far more dimensionalized sort of way. We need to see Native people as fully realized human beings. That is basically extermination. It's extermination by narrative.
The erasure of our people is so extensive that it has come to a point where it's not even intentionally trying to discredit Native people. We're not even in the room.
The story that's told about the country has to include the Native version of the story, or it's not accurate.
Illuminative was established to address all of these problems. And Illuminative is about shifting power, and it's about building a movement of many movements. The research showed that there's an incredible market demand for Native American stories and voices. And so there is an incredible opportunity here for Hollywood, entertainment, all kinds of institutions within pop culture to meet this audience demand that wants to hear Native stories. They want to know more, not only about Native history, but the contemporary realities and stories of Native peoples today.
Native people have changed. We're fully contemporary. We are contributing to society. We exist in all domains and spaces of American society.
Illuminative is addressing the distortion of Native American history in K through 12 education by working in partnership with students and parents. Illuminative is addressing the invisibility within pop culture and media and ensuring that Native stories are being told. The time has come for this country to not only reconcile itself with its past, but its present. And only if we're going to build the future that we all want, we need to be able to move forward together.
On Miro,
Thank you so much for we got that all set. We got the video going, and I think it is one of the most it's the best video that I can share that gives a real snapshot. Illuminative is something, if you take one thing away from tonight, it's Illuminative. And they are doing amazing work. I believe they got like a Bush grant. It was a huge grant. And what they did is they went around the United States and did focus groups and really found out what it is, where we stand across the nation. And these focus groups weren't natives, they were non-native folks, and gave feedback. And so this is all data that that they came up with. So Native American characters ranges from 0 to 0.4%. 78% of Americans want to learn more about Native people, their histories, cultures, and stories. Most Natives feel what they have learned or teaching in school about Native cultures isn't accurate, and they strongly support the need for curriculum change. Most people often express disappointment or anger that they were taught was so sparse or misleading. 87% of the state level history standards fail to cover Native people in history in a post-1900 context. Believe it's necessary to make significant changes to school curricula on Native American history and culture. So, and a lot of things have come out of Illuminative. They are doing amazing work. One of the things that they led was the name change for the Washington Commanders. And what they did is they got FedEx, they got Nike, I forget the third, but they all said that those funders came forward and said they would stop their funding if they didn't change the name. And that's how it happened, is really what it came down to is Illuminative put the pressure on the sponsors. And that's how the name was changed. I mean, of course, there's a lot of intricate other things going on, but that was, I think, the final push. And so Illuminative is doing wonderful work. One of the things that they did come to Minnesota and did a conference for us years ago. And they also started, we are still here, Minnesota. And so that's part of the Native Governance Center. And so there is sort of like a satellite office here in Minnesota of Illuminative, which is really wonderful. And one of the things, though, that was said at that conference that has stayed with me this entire time is that it was like 80% of Native youth would not attempt suicide if they knew their creation story. So Dr. Stephanie Freiberg is an amazing, I forget where she is now, but she led this research, and suicide is a huge epidemic in the Native communities and reservations, simply because I really believe it's a lot of different reasons, but mostly genocide. And so I just think that it is to say that it is privileged to know your creation story. I think that would be fair to say, because right now all of us are struggling with learning them, right? And even trying to find them. So check out Illuminative. They're a wonderful organization. I would say, though, if you see something that you really like, usually it's a lesson plan, whatever, save, favorite the page, because you can get really lost, and then you can't, this has happened to me, and then you can't go back and find what you were wanting to keep. So just FYI. Okay, and this would lead us into the next slide, please. So this next slide is something that y'all didn't ask for, but I can't have a presentation without it. It's the entire reason for me to even be here tonight, and it's the reason why I work so hard. And this is part of what Illuminative also brings forward. It's a priority of ours, is to really spread the knowledge of sovereignty, right? Sovereignty is something that Native people here, tribes here have. And we do have treaties, we have agreements with the US government, right? And so we are not to be lumped with Black people of color, because we have this status, right? We have a political status. We are citizens of the state, we are citizens of the nation, and we are citizens of our tribe. And so to make sure to acknowledge that sovereignty when really doing anything, that especially in my work now that I'm doing with Met Council, it's oh, why should we be working with tribes or so forth? And it's because you all agreed to. And so that it's really a political status, and to know that we're not an ethnicity or a race, but we are a nation, right? So, and then I wanted to show this picture of my son and my dad. I know I always go pack go, right? So my tribe is, half of me is from Wisconsin, and so although my son is being raised here in the Twin Cities, my dad of course has his Packer shirt on. But this is just us after we were camping over the summer. Gosh, my kiddo was, this is a long time ago, he's like double the size now. But here we are picking berries after we were done camping, and I had one of the things about sovereignty is protecting our land, protecting our resources. And we were a tribe that was terminated long ago. And if Nixon wasn't the greatest president, I will say that, but he was the best in tribal relations. And what he did is he reinstated the Menominee tribe from termination. And so part of my father's life, he was not Native. He was not from a tribe. And so this is one thing that we stand for, that we fight for, and it's for our resources and for our children to have these resources. So being able to pick berries and say who can and can't pick berries on our land is part of sovereignty, right? And so this is one of the things, like, on our reservation, is you have to be a tribal member, you have to be enrolled in order to access our lumber, our rivers, our to be harvesting, right? So if it's berries, if it's sumac, whatever it may be. And so this is really important to our tribe in order to preserve these resources and take care of them in a way that we see as the correct way, right? So just a little snapshot of my little family right there, and this is the reason for everything, right, for me. Anyways, and okay, so we can go on the next slide, which is always not so fun to talk about, and I really appreciate you all putting this in your acknowledge, or what Sarah was saying earlier, acknowledging the cultural appropriation. So this is something that we have struggled with, and I don't really see it as going away necessarily in my lifetime, but hopefully it'll be diminishing and minimizing and being going, how do I say this? So hopefully, like when I was trick-or-treating, we had plenty of folks when I was little be Native, princesses or whatever you may say. And so this is just really widely inappropriate to pretend to be another people. And so this is part of cultural appropriation. Fashion is one of the ways to do this. A headdress is something that is to be bestowed on for respect and honor, and not to be something that you wear to Coachella, right? And so fashion is something that we take very seriously. Even headdresses are only to be worn by those that are honored, and so I wouldn't even be able to ever wear one, right? Even being a Native. So this is very precious to us and needs to be respected. One example of cultural appropriation is there was a lawsuit by the Navajo Nation that was brought against a fashion store because they were using Navajo weaving designs in some of their clothing. And we ended up winning that lawsuit, and now that store can no longer have the Native design, the Navajo designs at least. And so this is something that we're taking very seriously and bringing forward. So if you see these outfits anywhere, please ask the store to remove them. It gets really tiring as a Native person to always be the one to bring it up forward and bring it to the register and say you really shouldn't be having these. And there is knowledge that is coming forward around this, which is great. I think there has been a lot of different retailers that have seen the light, right? And so but this is something that we struggle with, and what it does is it really diminishes the way that we're seen and increases disrespect when we are involved, and really seems like we're not here, and we still are. So cultural appropriation can be in different aspects as well. Anything that says that it's Native inspired or and so forth. And I think you all are pretty knowledgeable about this. From what I've learned of talking with Sarah and so forth, but just making sure that you have a Native involved when you're doing Native things, right? And then and having that conversation. And so I think fashion is definitely one way that appropriation is carried forward. But also it happens in music, and it also happens in art, right? And so one of the things that we can say is when you're buying Native art, just asking like, oh, where are you from? And making sure that they are from a tribe, or identify and don't see the Native culture as fascinating, or they're doing it because they're inspired by, so just having a conversation with someone that you're purchasing art from, or really just doing your due diligence is what I would ask. Okay, and next. Oh gosh, we're at 7 already. Okay. All right, so my lived experiences. This was kind of fun. I went around and around, and I'll start with Little House on the Prairie. Everybody loves Little House on the Prairie, right? Well, majority of people do, who I've met, especially here in Minnesota. And one of the things with Little House on the Prairie is that it is deeply racist. And the parts where the Native men are involved, I forget what page it is. But there is an image where there's Native men coming inside the cabin, and they're wearing skunk skin, right? And really the illustration, as soon as I said skunk, everybody knows what it smells like and has that image in their head, right? And so when you're reading a book like this, or any book, really putting your thinking cap on and realizing that that we Natives did use skunk skin and fur, but what is not acknowledged is that we knew how to take the oil out. We knew how to clean a skunk and so forth, right? And then we use the oils for different things, repellent, and the fur. Ojibways have made mittens out of them, so forth. But when you're thinking and you're seeing this book, one of the things that you have to realize is it's summertime in this picture, and they're wearing fur. Okay, so is that illustrator putting that fur on that person, on that man, in order to showcase a realistic? No, they did it in order for you to have that scent in your mind and be disgusted by the Native men, right? So when you're reading books like that showcase Natives, make sure you're thinking about them in a humanized sense, right? And saying, hey, is this real? Especially when it's written by a non-Native. And so if you choose to read the book, I'm not telling you not to read, but I'm just saying if you're reading it with your child or whoever, or with yourself reading it, know that some of the things you read don't really say the truth, right? And so Little House on the Prairie is something that I struggle with. I read them all. My grandma had gifted us all of them, but even as a child reading those, I was just like, I don't think that's right, flip, but not all children are Native, right? And then how does that make some children feel when they are Native, right? And showcasing us as disgusting or smelly or so forth, right? So, okay, on to a better book. A Letter for Bob. I absolutely love this book. It was one of our winners for the American Indian Youth Library Association Literature Awards. And it's about this car. The car is named Bob, and they go and they travel together in this family. And the reason I love this book so much is because it really showcases how Natives are, right? My mom always had us name our cars, and maybe this is more of a universal thing but my mom always wanted to show respect to something that's taking care of us, getting us around, and so forth. And this is just a view into how Natives are, right, today, and how pieces of us have come forward where our horses took us places, and we cared for them and loved them, and the same thing with Bob, right? And so if you look up the Youth Literature Awards, these are great. This is one of our winners. I think it was beginning of last year. And so and then I'll pop on to what it really means to I think the biggest lived experience that I wanted to talk to you all about was how hard it is to live in a society that is very individualistic, and you are in a community mindset. Okay, so mine is always, how can I take care of my people? How can I take care of my family? And when you go to therapy, this is an example, and they say, you need to stop thinking about your family. You need to think about yourself and take care of yourself. And then, so you're like, what? So this is life, right? So the US America is very individualistic in their thinking, right? In their mindsets. And so for you to be a person that thinks of the community, of our tribe, of our people, of our kids, of our elders constantly. And you're always in a room with folks that think of themselves, and which is in constant conflict, right? And so I think for a lived experience example, that's what I would give. It is very tiring, and yet it's not something that I'm willing to give up, right? So no matter which tribe you're looking at or learning about, we all think of communities. We always think of, how is this going to affect our people? And even if it's going to be 200 years later or it's tomorrow, right? This is how our thinking is. All right, next slide. Okay, so y'all wanted to learn some Ojibwe language, which is fun. So Menominee is very, very similar to Ojibwe. Our language is very, very similar. So Ojibwe is very easy for me to pick up, especially my brother-in-law speaks fluent Ojibwe. He's a teacher at South High. Very proud of him. And and then so my nieces are Ojibwe as well. And so Ojibwe is I would say what I think besides Navajo is the second biggest native language, including along with Canada, right? So Ojibwe is one that has the most fluent speakers. But there is Dakota. I do have to acknowledge there is Dakota here in Minnesota. This was their land first. So right now there are 4 Dakota nations within the state of Minnesota. And so I also encourage you to learn Dakota as well, since it was the first language, and Ojibwe came from the East Coast through Canada and down. And so Ojibwe were here after Dakota. And so, but if you listen to the podcast, it's a really good podcast with Dr. Anton Troyer that we did. He talks about that relationship. And I really appreciate what Dr. Anton Troyer is talking about. So listen, and if you want to learn more about that relationship. But so on to another Ojibwe speaker, Wisdom Weavers. James Vukolich is amazing. He's here. He lives here in Minnesota as well. We, like, oh my gosh, we interviewed for him the podcast as well. So that's another, put that on your to-do list. But James is amazing. He just came out with this book, Wisdom Weavers. And what I like, Dr. Anton does a Ojibwe word of the day as well, I think, but James has one that's really fun to watch if you want to learn more Ojibwe. And it's once you start listening, you are really fascinated with how much, at least here in Minnesota, how much you already have in our lives Dakota and Ojibwe words, right? And so if you don't know, right, Buju Anin is hello, and Anin is also a way of saying hello. You can use them separately or together. Folks usually say Buju Anin, and then what I've been told by an elder was Anin means I see your light. So it's acknowledging them, hello, and then I see your light. So this is just one example of how our native language is, in that the words that you're saying are so much more. So when you're saying, instead of just in English, hello is hello, right? And so, but our native words have so much more integrated within them, if that makes sense. Wiesenen is something I tell my kids all the time, and it just means we need to eat. You need to eat. Eat. Like, come on, so you say Wiesenen, and so we say that in Menominee as well. So that's a big word. And then Dodem is your clan. So when you hear someone introducing themselves, you'll hear Dodem a lot, and it just means their clan. So when they say that, that they'll say their clan integrated with that. So you will hear that as well. And the most important word, no, I'm just kidding, it's not. But Gaween is something I say all the time as well to my kiddos, and that means no. So you're always saying Gaween, and then it's been really, so I've been really trying to say say these things, these words in our everyday life, right? And I think it's kind of like a secret language with my kiddos, right? So or like Menominee is kun, like no. So kun, then it's like I'm telling them no, but then like other people don't really know, and so they just act right. You know what I mean? So then it's really kind of cool to integrate the native language into our family, and it's been really fun. And I just feel like when I say Gaween, it's just kind of nicer than saying no, it's just like English is so like short, so these are just some words that I'm sure you will hear throughout your life here in Minnesota, but Bujuanin is probably the number one to say. Upper Sioux, I don't know if he goes by president or chairman. I think it's president. But he said that he loves hearing the language. We all should be speaking the language, regardless if you're native or non-native. It's supposed to be spoken. And some folks would say, asked him, well, what if we're saying it wrong? And he's like, there's no wrong way to say our language. We all know what you mean. If you're not saying it right, the more you say it, the better you get to it. And so I really appreciated that, because a lot of the mindset that was coming out of the boarding school era was very harsh, and so knowing it just made me feel better about learning the language, and the more I say it, the better I'll get to it. And so it's wonderful to be here in Minnesota and have access to the language. The U is doing some wonderful work with Dakota and Ojibwe language, and there are plenty of places here that you can have access to learning. And so it's open to all. The more it's spoken, the better. And and even if you're saying it wrong, the people know what you're saying, right? Like in Navajo, the west side of the reservation says coffee one way and the east side says coffee the other way. But if you say it, they both know what you're saying, right? So our mind is able to decipher and figure it out. So thank you for wanting to learn some words. I really appreciate that request. Okay, next. And I got 15 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, this is fun. Okay. So there was some recipes, or you all asked for some food, and this is a couple of my favorite cookbooks. I know that Birch Bark has them, so if you have not been to Birch Bark Books, I would encourage you to do so. It's the most beautiful bookstore, and we are so lucky to have it here in the Twin Cities. It's owned by the author Louise Erdrich, and it's just so awesome. It's just it smells so good, and it's cozy, and it's just wonderful. There's nothing else like it. But she would have all these books there, and one of the tips that I would give to you all is that, let's say you're looking for a book and you're not sure if it's a good book or not, go do their search bar. If it's Birch Bark doesn't carry it, it's not a good native book because they vet everything that comes into their bookstore. So that's just a key tip there. But the Good Berry Cookbook is by Tashia Hart. She is the sweetest little person you'll ever meet. She is so wonderful. She also wrote a book called Native Love Jams. It's a native romance book, which I was super pumped about. So she lives in Duluth with her partner. But it has really great recipes. Original local, it's a variety of different things. And when I was pregnant, one of the recipes in here with the spinach and the wild rice salad was the only thing my son would let me eat for about a month straight. It's very good. And so pick that up if you'd like. That's by Hyde Erdrich. So Louise's sister had a part in that book. It's really good. And this is The Modern Navajo Kitchen, is a brand new book. So I'm still waiting to get mine. But the person that does this is I forget Alana Yazi, and she goes by the Fancy Navajo. I think it is the Fancy Navajo. She has had a blog for many years. I've been a fan of hers forever. And so you all ask for recipes. And if you, I think I might have the link here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat in a second. But the Fancy Navajo blog, she has the pumpkin cookies, and they are amazing. So her blog really kind of integrates our past foods with our current foods, and it's so yummy. I make these in batches of like 3, and the kids, my mom, everybody, we eat them all up. So if I was to direct you to one recipe, it probably would be the pumpkin cookies here. And I'm really excited for this cookbook and for her to have an option of creating that. So I'm excited to see what she's bringing forward. But so this would be my favorite. But there's plenty of other, I mean, we're lucky to have the sous chef here. But I would say these tend to be my favorite food recipes. So, and my family's. All right. And what is the next slide? Let me see what I'm going to be doing. Oh, okay. So this kind of leads in from food into nature and our environment. They really do tie together. And we really wouldn't have one without the other, right? And so in my work now at Met Council, we do, if you don't know what Met Council does, I'm not surprised. A lot of folks don't know what Met Council does, but one of the things that we do besides transit is our water plants and sewers. And so it's not lovely, but it's something that we all need, right? And one of the things that we're really integrating is water as a relative. And so really bringing that concept and that mindset forward, right? And the environment is not simply a resource, right? It is a relative. And so really respecting it in that way. And so water is considered a living being with its own spirit. And so a lot of our prayers, we will start off by having a cup of water, and we will pray with it in our ceremony. And that's how it starts off, by praying to the water. And then really showing that respect and taking care of it. And so this is one of the things that we really, as an environmental, bringing that forward is really seeing things as our relation and not just water there to take, right? And water too, one of the things that I think is maybe not talked about enough is that all the water that is on Earth now is all the water that there will ever be, right? And so you may see, water from a glacier, and then you're talking about water in Lake Superior, or you're then talking about the Mississippi, whatever it may be. This is all the water that's ever going to be here. And I think when you think of that way, it really shifts your mindset of how special it is and how we need to honor it and take care of it, right? Just like a family member. And so I think when you think of that, it really integrates how important it is to show respect, right? And then, okay, this is not, so we appreciate everything, or we're taught to appreciate everything from the littlest thing to the biggest thing, right? And this is a little more about my son. I could talk for well over an hour about my kiddo, but he is a very special human. And one of the things that he's very into is insects, right? And I think he gets it from my dad. My dad is a huge fly fisherman, and I think it just kind of all goes together. But he has brought, and I think kids always teach us, right? And he has really brought forward how beautiful insects are, right? And I really see this as him integrating our Indigenous values back, right? Because it's very colonialistic to think of, oh, gross, oh, yuck, and have that, I identify that but he has really brought me to see how important insects are to our environment and everything. And I just will share this with you all, like even cockroaches. We read a book on cockroaches, and they actually play an important role with their waste. It carries nitrogen, which then goes into the soil and then helps the plants grow and so forth. And there's only like 3 species, I think, that are actually considered pests. The other like 1,999 of them that are in the world actually do good. And so I think that just to pass on what our family is showing as environmental stewardship is that even the pests have their role in society and in the earth and in the world. And so just knowing that yes, they live here too, right? So that I think that's what I would say, that we all play a role here, but that respect needs to be shown. So that would be the biggest takeaway, I think, for nature and then the environment. All right, next slide. I think I'll do good. Okay. So Native teachings. One of the things that I would suggest for youth, and I absolutely adore, it's called Nashki Games. I'll put that in the chat as well. It's Naske, I think it HK. It's a game, online game here in Minnesota, and he and his family, Tony and his family, create games, native games that you could bring into the classroom, and it's just amazing. He's there in the like maroon blazer. Oh, thank you, Allison. In the maroon, oh, and Sarah, the maroon blazer there. He is the best human. Oh my gosh, he's so kind. He's a wonderful person, and he works so hard to bring our games forward for our kids and for everyone's children. He has some really wonderful, actually, I have some of this stuff right here, but he has just some really cute games with birds and cards, and then he also has the moccasin game. And so I would say for youth, if you do one thing for them or for your camp, Nashki Games has plenty of options, and so it's just a lot of fun. He's a wonderful way to show support and learn at the same time. And he also is doing it in order to increase Ojibwe language. So great work. So and then adults. So if I was to say something, and I've kind of already touched on it, I think a few slides ago, but really how natives think is 7 generations. And I'm sure you may have heard this already, but that's just how we really look forward. How is this going to affect the 7th generation from where we are now? And so this is really how we live our lives. We always think 7 generations. So, and I'm going to touch on this just really quickly because I'm not sure it's kind of a side note, but one of the things that we're struggling with the 7th generation is having enrolled tribal members. So one of the ways that genocide was instigated was by blood quantum. And I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of blood quantum, but we are all enrolled, and we have to, if you're enrolled, you pretty much all the tribes except for a very select few go off of a quarter or more Indian blood. So you have to be a quarter or more in order to be enrolled. And this is really what the Bureau of Indian Affairs, their officers put into effect, because they knew that eventually it would cause us to die out. We would not be able to keep our population going. And so this was a genocide tool, and it's something that we're really struggling with today. So blood quantum is something that is the only other folks on Earth really are horses and dogs. So that's the only other living being that has to deal with something like blood quantum. So it's like a pedigree. And what we're struggling with now is that it really is diminishing. So this is something that I had to deal with as a child. My first crush, and I knew that there wasn't any point, right? Because he was non-native, right? And I had, because I'm a Menominee and Navajo, in order to have blood for my child and my grandchild, I have to be with a Menominee or Navajo man, right? So this is something that is very hard for us to deal with, especially if you fall in love with someone that is non-native. How is that going to reflect on the seventh generation, right? So it's something that some tribes are trying to deal with, like Red Lake just recently this past year, put all their enrolled members back to 100% full blood Indian. Ojibwe bands are forming together, and so you can be from one band and another band. You can only be enrolled with one band, but you can count the blood from another. So we're tribes are really trying to figure out how to keep up with and how to, and the flip side of blood quantum though is that, like what I had said with our berries, you need to be an enrolled member in order to pick berries, right? So that's one way that we protect our resources, is making sure that enrolled members can do this, right? But so blood quantum has a way in our livelihood right now, but we're really struggling with how are we going to handle this going forward? And so seventh generation is really what we the way that we live our lives, always thinking ahead and behind. Like, how would our seventh generation behind think of us and what we're doing now and today? So that's the adult teaching. And next slide, please. Okay, so this is how to support Native people and culture, just a couple things. So being able to provide our stories. So thank you for having me here tonight. And also, I would say, really like Milkweed Publishing here is really great about supporting Native authors. So making sure that you support publishers that are supporting Native authors, bringing our stories forward. Make sure to fight stereotypes. Some of the things that we deal with is, you know, I would say one thing that would come up is like, oh, my spirit animal is this and that. And we really don't necessarily, we have clans, but spirit animal is a very stereotypical way of thinking of us, right? And so so fighting those stereotypes and supporting name change, mascot name change, and so forth. Showcasing, we are still here. We still live here today. We did not all die off in the 1900s and 1800s, and we are here at Target. We are here on 35. We are here and all day, every day. And creating space for representation. So if you don't see us somewhere, please bring us forward and say Native voice needs to be in the room, Native voices need to be here, and so forth. Two organizations that I'll note really quickly is the Native Governance Center. Check them out. They do amazing work here. We're based here in Minnesota, and now I believe everybody is remote, but still a wonderful organization. We're really lucky to have them. And also the Indian Land Tenure Foundation. They're doing some great work out of Roseville. And they are working on, I forget what the tax is called, but it's basically where landowners in their taxes can then say they want it to be designated to a tribe. So deferred to a tribe. They want their taxes to go. So the Indian Land Tenure Foundation is working on that. I forget how many states have that option right now, but Minnesota is moving towards that. I believe Senator Kunish is bringing that forward. So just something to keep an eye on. If it's an option, to please defer your funds, your taxes to a tribe, right? It's the reason you have the land that you have today. Next slide. Oh my gosh. Okay, allyship. And I was struggling with this one because this is one of the things that I thought was important to bring forward, because I struggle with folks that see themselves as allies and aren't necessarily real allies. I have a hard time with allyship in where people believe they're true allies, and I would say one of the things that I have just in my personal experience is people will say, well, we've never done it that way. It's not my job. And it's very hard to continue to work and be the only person bringing something forward. And so when you're at work or anywhere really, and you see a Native person or even a BIPOC person speaking up, and it doesn't take much to say, I second that, like what they're saying, I validate and I support them. It's very, very hard to constantly bring things forward and be the only one bringing it up. It's a heavy weight. And so I appreciate you all being here tonight and learning alongside me, and hopefully bringing this forward into your own lives. So listening and learning, yes, but also advocating for Natives and tribal members. And you can volunteer. I saw, you all said that already, but read Native authored books. So this is another thing. Make sure they're Native authored. There are some books out there that say they're Native and they're not really, actually. So if you see it says it's Native, it'll say like Allison Waukau, and in parentheses it'll say Menominee Navajo. So typically when you are a tribal member, you will put your nations in parentheses after your name. So follow Native artists and organizations. There are plenty here in Minnesota. We are doing amazing work here. But just to name a few: Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center. I love NACD, which is the Native American Community Development Institute. We also have the American Indian Family Center in St. Paul. There's just numerous ones here in the state. So definitely follow them. Follow Illuminative. They're great. You'll keep all up to date on so many different things. And let me see if that, and I think, yeah, next slide. Okay. I think the one thing that I probably would bring up just really quickly is pretendians. If you haven't heard of them, it's people that pretend that they're Native and they're really not. And so recently we just had one that came forward that was, outed, I guess. I don't know. But there are some Native authors out there that profit from saying they're Native and they're not actually Native. So they are called pretendians. So yeah, it's another fun thing, people pretending to be Native and getting the grants and getting so forth. And so that's another thing that may be helpful with Blood Quantum, is that you do have your tribal enrollment card to show, but it's just something that we deal with every day. Okay, so Miigwech, thank you so much for having me. I know I went over time just a little bit, but I think, I got to cover all the good things. And now we'll jump over to Q&A. And if anybody has any questions, I don't know, I wasn't really seeing the chat, but if there is any, I'm happy to answer any.
And Allison, I just want to hop in and say thank you. That was a wonderful, very heartfelt, very informative time of sharing. We're really, really grateful. And also wanted to announce our winner tonight before we hop into Q&A. This is for a $50 gift card to Heartberry, which is a Native business that creates Native art in northern Minnesota. And we will, it's an electronic gift card and they have an online store. And our winner is Katie G. So congrats, Katie G. We will email that to you.
Oh,
tomorrow.
fun. I just love Heartberry. Oh my goodness. So I just got a shirt from there. That's very cool of you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I didn't know that was coming.
Yes. Any questions for Allison? She's ready.
I could go on and on. So if you have anything, any topic or any book, I have an example of any book that you like. Mystery or gosh, poetry. There's one by Wab Rice, if anybody likes kind of a scary. It's not really scary, but it is ominous. But yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. I'm here.
And we'll send a wrap-up email that will list a lot of these resources that you shared,
Oh yeah,
Allison.
yeah, I should
Many
make
of them, yeah, that would be great. Many of them we did drop in the chat. So we
Thank
will
you.
get a wrap-up email out to everybody with all your great books and resources.
Yeah, and I'll pop in. I don't know if we got the Illuminative. They have a wonderful PDF on cultural appropriation. So I put that in there. So
Hi,
yeah.
Allison. This is Phil Evelyn. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah.
Hi, good evening. I just dropped a thank you in the text, but
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate what a great learning experience for me tonight. I
Oh,
will
good.
freely admit so much of what you presented was so interesting, and I am absolutely a novice when it comes to this. So thank you for being patient and going through it at a really nice pace, at least for me. So thank
Okay.
you. My question relates to a lot of the concepts and important topics that you covered tonight for children that are maybe, I'll just loosely call them tweeners. So I have 4 kids
Yeah.
that all think they're adults. They'll always be children to me. They range from 24 to 18. And I'm curious if you had specific recommendations, either those that you mentioned tonight or maybe others you could make that would be good references for them as I try to convey the importance of these topics to them, things that they could read or research, websites. I mean, anything that might come top of mind,
Sure.
or if you want to follow up later, that'd be fine too. But
Yeah.
as I know you know, like you talked about, things maybe for younger kids, but what about kids in that tweener range between sort of
Yeah.
teenagehood and early adulthood? Any thoughts there?
Yeah. So for books, there was one that oh gosh, it's something lightning. No, 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 no. Oh shoot. We just interviewed the author. It's so good. It was on Reese Witherspoon's, is that her name? Is that the actress? Reese's
Yes.
Book Club. She
Yes.
just I love the book. It although I'm spacing, I could see the cover, it's downstairs, but it gives such a good glimpse of what it is to be Native and what we struggle with too is being from a reservation and being from the city, right? And so it's very hard when you live here in the city and you're not necessarily accepted on the reservation, but then when you're on the reservation you're not really accepted. It's very hard. It's a very hard thing to go through, and that book is amazing. It's really well written, and so she's a lovely author. And so Reese did a good job with that book selection. I would also say there's a couple other books that are youth versions. I actually like the youth versions a little bit more than some of the adult. The adult is really hard for me to get through sometimes, but It's the Braiding Sweetgrass, the youth version. It's just very good. A very easy read. And so for that kind of 20-year-old age range, even for me, and I won't say my age, but maybe double the 20-year, it's easier for me to read and also listen to on audiobook. A lot of there is conversation that audiobooks aren't reading, but they definitely are. And I do feel that it's easier for that age range. And I did work at Hennepin County Library for many years, and you are able to access Hennepin County Library pretty much with any library card. It's called MELSA, and you can be a member of any library pretty much in Minnesota, except for like two very rural ones. So let's say you live in St. Paul, you can still be part of Hennepin County Library. You just have to bring your St. Paul card over and we put it in the system, so forth. So then you have access to even more books and audiobooks on Libby, which I love. So I would say that is a great option. I'm going to put Hennepin County has, well, when I worked there, we had a really great library staff team. I'm not quite sure how it is now. But one of the things that we did as a Native staff, we made book lists. And so if my computer will let me, I will share that book list. It's called Makoche, is our Native staff team name. And so Makoche and Minnesota is, here we go. And we came up with so many different book lists. Of course, we have folks like Anton and different things. But if you look at those book lists, there's some really great ones that we put together, like how to learn about natives. Anton's book, oh gosh, what is it called? It's really short and sweet. Everything you always want to know, or question
about Indians, but we're afraid to ask.
Thank you, Sarah. That is a great book. I really enjoy that. And I believe there is a youth version of that one as well. So that's a lot of fun. And also I would have to say that in my library work, I have found that teens and older kiddos really still love picture books. You have to just sit there and read it for them. They will say they don't like them, but they are listening. And so there are so many wonderful picture books out there. If you looked up the American Indian Youth Literature Awards, that's great too, to follow along and see the books that we get. If anybody had ever told me, Allison, when you grow up, you can work and be part of a library advisory council and get books sent to your house for free, like I would have joined this council like a long time ago. But part of that literature award council is all the publishers will send you their books to your doorstep and you have to read them all and really rate them, right? And it's funny though, because we require the author and the illustrator to both be Native. And it's funny how many publishers will send us books with Native authors and not Native illustrators. And it blows me away. Like, why would you have a non-Native illustrator? There are plenty of artists out there. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but that's a really great resource as well. So, but I'm happy to come up with some resources for you and some good Instagrams for them to follow as well. And I can send that to Sarah.
Allison, thank you so much for all your thoughts on that. Appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah, thank you. Any other age groups or anything? I'm trying to think of anything in the news recently. There was, okay, I could share this. So the head archivist, like it's the Smithsonian archivist in New York. She is wanting to not have any native, oh gosh, I should just, let me see if I can find the article, but she's not wanting to have any native representation. And it's just really, it just still blows me away that people still want to keep erasing us and not having us even integrated in archives, or we have the National Museum of the American Indian in the Smithsonian. And how can someone, but this is one thing that we're dealing with. So the American Indian Library Association, we're writing, I'm sorry, my kiddos, I'm sorry if you hear them downstairs, but they're they're playing with something. But we are writing a letter to them, and like, why would you do this? Like, I just don't understand how that even works. You can completely want to erase someone that was here first, even. So when you work in archives, and that's something that's very, very hard to deal with. It's across the board that we deal with erasure, and so that's one thing that has come up through the news most recently. Yeah, trying to think of anything else, fun topics, or trying to think.
Any other questions for Allison?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk forever. If I was to say, I did forget to mention PBS, The Electric Indian. If you haven't watched that yet, I would encourage you to do so. It's very, very good. It was by my friend Layla Hale, and she is Navajo and Lakota, and it's about the Native Olympian hockey player. Oh goodness, I'm spacing his name. Henry. Geez, I'm so bad with names tonight. But really wonderful. It's online at PB. So it would be what, TPT here, and a really great film. If you wanted to check that out, it's really well done. And I know it's very Minnesotan for hockey and all that, so that's a good one to check out.
Well, we are going to wrap up our Zoom call for the night. And thank you again, Allison. We're grateful you're willing to share your email address with people.
Fun. Thank you for having me.
It's been a complete joy, and I know we've all learned so much from you. So we thank you for your time, and all of you on the call, you'll get a wrap-up email with these wonderful resources. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Good night.
Bye-bye.